The Subtle Act of Surrendering, The Surrender Tactics. Written and published by Lord Kabura's Magic Haven. Introduction. Now, when you hear the word surrender, you might think of giving up, backing down, or losing. Far from it. In fact, it's one of the greatest tactics you need when trying to transform weakness into power. It's a highly effective strategic move when used in the right context in the game of life. Trying to disarm your enemy or your oppressors by showing anger is one of the most negative and ineffective strategies in the game of survival. Not only does it cloud your judgment, but it also reveals that you're weak. When you display anger, you're showing others exactly what triggers and agitates you. This, in turn, can be used against you, as your enemy now knows how to provoke you. By reacting emotionally, you're more likely to act impulsively, giving your opponent the upper hand. Calm responses or the surrender tactics, however, allow you to control the narrative and act with intention, not reaction. When someone provokes you, they often gain satisfaction or strength from your emotional response. By remaining calm, you deny your opponent the power they seek over you. Anger, on the other hand, shows them that they have succeeded in disturbing your peace and making you react. It can also push away potential allies and make others perceive you as emotionally unstable or reactive. This isolates you, while your oppressors or enemies appear more composed and in control. This is where surrender tactics come into play. By surrendering, or even by pretending to surrender, you can disarm and deceive your opponent, allowing you to gain power over them in the long run. The tactic of surrender here is about knowing when to hold back, when to give in, and when to strategically show weakness. Feigning a retreat to lure your enemy into a trap should not be seen as evil. In reality, it's a masterful display of patience and manipulation in the harsh game of life constantly played by those around you, who you least expect of playing these games. You must learn to open your eyes and arm yourself with some of the wisdom we will discuss in this audiobook. Through this audiobook and the surrendering tactics, you will learn how to manipulate situations to your advantage. You'll know when and how to surrender. Rather than surrendering out of weakness, you will learn the importance of surrendering with purpose and how to turn apparent submission into a way to gain the upper hand over time. The strategic use of surrender is often about timing, perception, and knowing when to yield in order to advance your position in the long run. And if you finally learn the art of surrendering, you can control every situation others by knowing when to yield and when to push forward. Throughout history, people have misunderstood the concept of surrender, seeing it as a sign of defeat or helplessness. But consider the Taoist notion of Wu Wei, which is often translated as non-action or effortless action. Ancient Chinese philosophers like Laozi believed in the value of yielding, of flowing like water around obstacles, and of allowing situations to evolve naturally. Water doesn't resist, it adapts. And yet, over time, it has the power to shape entire landscapes. To truly surrender is not to give up, but to accept situations as they are, so you can move with them rather than against them. In this way, surrender is a potent source of strength. It's about learning to pause, reflect, and let go of the relentless need to control, so that you can respond more effectively when the time comes. This is the heart of what we'll call the surrender tactics, actions that, rather than forcing change, create an environment where change can happen naturally and powerfully. This journey into the world of surrender is meant to help us rethink how we approach life's challenges. We all face stress, struggle in relationships, and yearn for personal growth. These struggles can feel heavy and draining, but what if we could turn that pressure into a force for growth? Through surrender tactics, we can develop resilience, not by fighting every battle head-on but by discerning when to yield and when to take action. Why surrender? Because when we surrender strategically, we stop wasting energy on what we can't control, allowing us to focus on what we can influence. This approach transforms not just our external achievements but our internal strength as well. Julius Caesar. When he faced a mutiny from his own men during his campaign in Gaul, he could have tightened control, but instead, he made a show of vulnerability, telling his soldiers they were free to leave if they wished. But by surrendering in that moment, he tapped into his men's loyalty, sparking their commitment to him more deeply than any speech or punishment could have. Caesar's calculated surrender demonstrated a profound understanding of human nature, a tactic that allowed him to win over his men and ultimately expand his empire. Or take Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher-emperor who believed in yielding to the flow of life's challenges without complaint. In his Meditations, Marcus writes about surrendering to the natural order and focusing on one's inner responses rather than external circumstances. He surrendered to the limitations of human life, using that acceptance to gain peace and perspective, even as he ruled over the vast Roman Empire. These tactics can be practical tools for anyone seeking not only to navigate stress and relationships but to transform obstacles into opportunities. By following the examples in this book, we too can begin to see surrender as a tool for growth, resilience, and strength. Throughout history, figures who mastered the art of surrender have often gained the most significant power. Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese military strategist and author of The Art of War, who championed the idea of surrender as a form of victory. Sun Tzu taught that the best way to win a war is not always through battle. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting, he wrote. In his view, knowing when to retreat, when to yield, or when to deceive the enemy into a false sense of security was essential to victory. This tactic became the cornerstone of countless battles, teaching generals to make surrender work for them instead of against them. Another powerful example comes from the medieval mystic Saint Teresa of Avila. She surrendered her fears, her doubts, and her rigid plans in order to pursue her spiritual path. In doing so, she broke away from the conventional constraints of her time, establishing a monastic order and eventually becoming one of the most influential spiritual figures in the Christian world. Saint Teresa's story shows that surrender can be a way to transcend limitations, to create space for something greater than oneself to unfold. Each of us can bring surrender tactics into our daily lives. Whether you're dealing with career challenges, personal relationships, or even inner doubts, surrender can be a powerful ally in the game of life. Surrender isn't a tactic for everyone. It requires patience, wisdom, and an understanding that power is not only gained by taking control but by sometimes allowing life to lead the way. But for those willing to adopt this approach, surrender will open doors to deeper relationships, lasting success, and inner peace. As you explore these surrender tactics, may you find your own strength, guided by the wisdom of those who've gone before us. Chapter 1: Understanding the Power of Surrender. Surrender is often misunderstood as a sign of defeat or weakness, a passive act of giving up. However, in its truest sense, surrender is an active, mindful choice that requires courage and insight. It's not about abandoning our efforts or resigning ourselves to failure. It's about releasing the rigid need to control every aspect of our lives and allowing situations to unfold. This doesn't mean we lose agency. Instead, we learn to redirect our energy toward what we can influence and let go of the endless struggle against what we cannot. Many of history's greatest thinkers, from Laozi to Marcus Aurelius, have echoed this idea, recognizing that surrender opens us to the wisdom of life's natural rhythms. Surrender, then, is about shifting from fighting circumstances to flowing with them. By doing so, we conserve our strength for when decisive action is actually needed. It allows us to respond with clarity and purpose rather than reaction and resistance. As we will see in this chapter, surrender is far from passive. It is an intentional approach that opens doors to growth, insight, and true strength. When we insist on controlling every aspect of our lives, we end up caught in a cycle of frustration, anxiety, and rigidity. Surrender works because it cuts through this cycle, allowing us to let go of the fear and stress that come with constantly fighting against reality. When we surrender, we create mental and emotional space for solutions to emerge naturally. Imagine being stuck in quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. But if you pause and allow yourself to relax, you may find a way to shift your weight, making it possible to escape. In a similar way, surrender creates openings that rigid control does not. Alexander the Great. In one famous tale, Alexander encountered the Gordian knot, a tangled, seemingly unsolvable puzzle. Many before him had tried to untie it and failed. Instead of fighting with the knot, Alexander simply cut through it, symbolizing his understanding that victory sometimes requires abandoning convention and expectation. Surrender allows us to bypass the limitations of rigid control and move straight to effective, unencumbered action. The mind craves certainty, and this often manifests as a need to control situations and outcomes. When we try to maintain absolute control over every element of our lives, however, our minds become locked in a constant state of tension, blocking us from seeing possibilities beyond our narrow focus. Surrender, by contrast, gives the mind a chance to step back and expand its perspective, freeing it to process options we may have previously ignored. A wise leader in ancient Japan, for instance, might approach an enemy with humility rather than overt aggression. Samurai warriors understood the value of yielding at the right time, saving their energy for a decisive strike rather than wasting it in fruitless attacks. When we let go of the need to control everything, we allow our minds the flexibility to adapt and pivot, leading to wiser, more creative decisions. The strength that comes from surrender lies in resilience. In life, we encounter countless setbacks, obstacles, and failures. Trying to control every outcome only leaves us exhausted, while surrender helps us develop a resilient mindset that adapts to change and thrives on flexibility. Many ancient cultures embraced this philosophy, viewing resilience as a form of inner strength that arose not from brute force but from an ability to bend without breaking. For example, consider the bamboo plant. Bamboo doesn't resist the wind, instead, it bends gracefully with it, able to withstand even the fiercest storms. This natural resilience mirrors the power of surrender. When we yield to challenges, we don't let them defeat us. Instead, we acknowledge and adapt to them, building our inner strength and preparing ourselves to withstand future adversity. Throughout history, many figures have harnessed the power of surrender to navigate challenging times and come out stronger. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, famously used surrender as part of her strategy to deal with Rome. Rather than constantly fighting against Roman dominance, she maneuvered through alliances, using diplomacy to preserve her power and Egypt's independence for as long as possible. Cleopatra's willingness to adapt her approach rather than resist outright enabled her to retain influence and power in an unstable world. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi used surrender not as passivity but as a deliberate, resilient approach to opposition. Gandhi's philosophy of ahimsa, or nonviolent resistance, was essentially a form of surrender that sought to disarm his opponents morally rather than fight them directly. This approach required great courage and patience, allowing Gandhi to build a movement that ultimately brought independence to India. His resilience came not from aggression but from an unwavering commitment to his principles and a willingness to embrace challenges without resistance. How to build resilience through surrender in everyday life. In daily life, we can build resilience by recognizing situations where struggle is counterproductive and choosing instead to respond with patience and openness. For example, if you're dealing with a difficult work situation, rather than resisting every change, surrendering can mean adapting to the new environment, taking it as a learning opportunity, and focusing on what you can control, your own actions and responses. Practical techniques for building this kind of resilient surrender include mindfulness practices, which help us observe situations without immediately reacting, and reflective journaling, where we explore challenges from a calm, detached perspective. Over time, these practices enable us to see setbacks not as threats but as chances to grow stronger. Resilient surrender doesn't mean inaction, it means choosing the right action at the right time. Chapter 2, Turning Surrender into Strategy, Achieving Goals with Less Effort. The art of strategic surrender allows us to reach our goals by recognizing when stepping back can actually bring us closer to what we want. In warfare, politics, business, and personal life, surrender can be a hidden strength that enables us to position ourselves advantageously, often with less effort than if we had charged in head-on. In personal relationships, surrender can be an effective way to build deeper connections and gain influence. Many powerful leaders throughout history understood that sometimes, stepping back or showing vulnerability could be far more influential than aggressive control. Queen Elizabeth I of England, for instance, often used surrender to navigate complex political relationships. By presenting herself as open to negotiation, she created alliances and garnered the loyalty of her subjects, often winning support without force. We can apply this in our own lives by surrendering our need to always be right or in control. By listening, showing empathy, and allowing others to have space, we can build trust and influence, turning surrender into a powerful relational strategy. This approach is especially effective in conflict resolution, where yielding control and understanding the other's perspective often leads to more productive outcomes. When we let go of the need to force solutions, we open ourselves up to creative ideas and breakthroughs. Many artists and thinkers have found that their best work came not from intense effort but from moments when they surrendered to inspiration, letting ideas flow naturally. Albert Einstein, for instance, often spoke about how he would let his mind drift, allowing ideas to connect freely without forcing them. This kind of surrender taps into the subconscious mind, revealing insights that structured thinking might miss. In our own creative pursuits, surrendering means giving ourselves permission to step back, take breaks, and trust that solutions will come. Whether it's brainstorming for a project or solving a problem, releasing control can lead to breakthroughs that are often surprising and far more effective than any forced solution. The first step in understanding surrender is recognizing what attachments we hold on to so tightly that they limit our freedom. Attachments can show up in many forms: relationships, specific outcomes we expect, and the need for things to go exactly as we planned. While it's natural to form attachments, especially to the things or people we care deeply about, over-attachment traps us in a cycle of constant worry and disappointment. When our sense of worth or happiness is tied up in these attachments, we become prisoners to things beyond our control. Take, for example, the story of Siddhartha Gautama, who later became known as the Buddha. Born into a life of luxury, he was deeply attached to the comforts and assurances of his royal life. But it was only after he left these attachments behind that he could pursue a path of true freedom and enlightenment. By understanding what he was clinging to, he discovered that attachments, rather than providing real happiness, actually limit our ability to experience life fully and freely. Detaching doesn't mean becoming indifferent, nor does it mean giving up on our goals. Rather, detachment allows us to engage more fully in the present moment without being shackled by the need for a specific outcome. In a way, it's like planting a seed in a garden. You tend to it, water it, and care for it, but you cannot force it to grow on your schedule. You accept that growth is a natural process and focus on what you can control, nurturing the seed and giving it the best chance to thrive. This approach to detachment was famously used by the Stoic philosophers. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, practiced a form of detachment that allowed him to rule with a clear mind. By focusing only on what was within his control, his actions and responses, he avoided becoming overwhelmed by the pressures and chaos of ruling an empire. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Detachment, in this sense, gave him the freedom to make decisions without fear or excessive worry, grounded in the present moment rather than anxiously predicting the future. To develop the skill of detachment, start small by practicing mindfulness in your daily routines. Here are a few exercises to guide you. Daily reflection exercise: at the end of each day, reflect on any attachments that may have impacted your mood or decisions. Did you feel frustrated because something didn't go your way? Did someone's opinion affect you more than you'd like? Identifying these moments helps you see where attachment may be limiting you. The release and reset exercise: when you notice yourself clinging to a specific outcome or expectation, pause and take a few deep breaths. Imagine releasing the attachment as you exhale, allowing it to float away from you. Then, focus on the present moment and ask yourself what you can do with the situation as it is, rather than how you wish it could be. Goal setting with openness: when setting personal or professional goals, think about what actions you can take without tying yourself to a particular outcome. For example, instead of focusing on receiving a promotion, focus on performing your job exceptionally well each day. This way, your motivation comes from within, not from something outside your control. Practicing acceptance. When things don't go as planned, try to accept the situation without judgment. Remind yourself that setbacks are a natural part of life and that your value isn't defined by any single outcome. By embracing acceptance, you'll find it easier to navigate challenges without becoming discouraged or feeling defeated. The Letting Go Journal. Write down your major attachments, whether they're to specific people, goals, or expectations. Next to each one, jot down how you could engage with it differently if you weren't so tied to the outcome. Reflecting on this regularly can remind you of the freedom that comes from letting go of excessive attachment. Learning detachment is an ongoing practice. It's about holding our desires lightly, knowing that we have the power to shape our intentions, but that outcomes may vary. As we let go of rigid expectations, we allow life to flow naturally, freeing ourselves to experience the present without constant worry about the future. This is the first step in mastering the art of surrender and creating a life of balanced, resilient freedom. Chapter 3: Embracing Vulnerability and Why Vulnerability is Key. We often think of vulnerability as a weakness, something that leaves us exposed and defenseless. But vulnerability, in truth, is one of the greatest sources of strength. When we allow ourselves to be open, honest, and even a little uncertain, we create space for genuine connections, deeper understanding, and growth. This courage to be vulnerable is at the heart of surrender. When we stop hiding behind masks or defensive walls, we're more available to ourselves and others, inviting experiences and opportunities that we might otherwise miss. Ancient philosophers and leaders understood this well. Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism, taught that a wise man is one who knows what he does not know. By embracing vulnerability, he suggests that we access a type of wisdom far greater than certainty. He believed that life is like water, soft and flexible, yet powerful enough to shape rocks and carve canyons. Vulnerability allows us to be like water, adaptable and resilient, rather than rigid and breakable. One of the biggest barriers to vulnerability is the ego, the part of us that craves validation, control, and a perfect image. The ego fears exposure because it worries that any sign of imperfection will bring rejection or failure. But, paradoxically, this need to appear strong and self-sufficient often creates loneliness, anxiety, and stress. The more we cling to our ego's demands, the more we trap ourselves in a cycle of self-protection that isolates us from others and stunts our personal growth. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius knew this struggle well. Despite his power, he dedicated much of his life to learning how to silence the ego's fears. In his journal, he reminded himself to receive without pride, let go without attachment. Marcus Aurelius understood that by surrendering his ego, he could make decisions from a place of inner calm and clarity, not from a need to protect or prove himself. In this way, surrendering the ego frees us to act from our true values, not from a place of insecurity. Vulnerability in relationships means being open about our feelings, fears, and needs. Start small by sharing something personal with a trusted friend or partner, a recent fear, a hope, or a regret. It doesn't have to be big. Even small moments of honesty build a foundation for stronger bonds. Over time, you'll find that openness invites openness, creating more meaningful connections. In the professional world, vulnerability can feel risky, but it's a powerful tool. Leaders who are open about their own challenges inspire trust and loyalty. Share ideas in meetings, even if they aren't fully polished, and ask for feedback on your projects. Showing that you're willing to learn and grow will gain you respect and make you more approachable. To practice vulnerability with yourself, try journaling about your insecurities, dreams, and moments of failure without judgment. Instead of pushing away uncomfortable emotions, sit with them, and let yourself feel them fully. This practice will help you understand yourself better and reduce the fear of confronting your own imperfections. Asking for help is another act of vulnerability. Many of us feel that seeking advice or support makes us appear weak. However, When we reach out, we invite others to contribute their strength and wisdom, creating a powerful bond. Throughout history, great leaders have sought counsel from others, Alexander the Great from his mentor Aristotle, and even America's Abraham Lincoln from his diverse cabinet. They understood that vulnerability in seeking guidance made them wiser and more effective. Make a habit of expressing how you feel in the moment. If something makes you happy, say it. If something bothers you, communicate it gently but clearly. When we learn to express our emotions as they arise, we avoid letting them build up and cause stress. Simple expressions of feeling, whether joy or frustration, allow others to see the real us and foster mutual understanding. Vulnerability may feel like a challenge, but it's also a gateway to the most meaningful parts of life. By letting go of the need to appear invulnerable, we experience richer relationships, deeper peace, and a more authentic self. Vulnerability is not about losing strength, it's about finding a strength that runs deeper than the ego. In embracing this side of ourselves, we truly step into the art of surrender, empowered by openness and grounded in our shared humanity. Change is one of life's only constants, yet we often find ourselves resisting it, clinging tightly to the familiar and the predictable. Resistance comes from fear, fear of losing control, fear of the unknown, and sometimes even fear of failure. This resistance often shows up as stress, frustration, and a sense of being stuck, preventing us from moving forward or embracing new possibilities. Imagine a river blocked by debris. The water will keep building up pressure, trying to flow but unable to move freely. In the same way, resisting change creates mental and emotional blockages. By understanding how resistance works, we can begin to release it. Resistance is natural, but if left unchecked, it becomes a barrier to growth and new experiences. Instead of keeping us safe, it holds us back. In ancient times, the Stoic philosophers were masters of understanding resistance. Epictetus, a Greek Stoic, taught that we must focus on what we can control and let go of the rest. He believed that it's not the change itself that causes suffering, but our reaction to it. By letting go of resistance, he argued, we open ourselves to freedom and clarity. When we resist change, we're often trying to force life to match our expectations. This forcing is like swimming against the current of a powerful river. No matter how strong you are, the effort eventually exhausts you, leaving you frustrated and even further away from where you want to be. Surrendering, on the other hand, means learning to move with the current, trusting that it will lead you where you're meant to go. Eastern philosophy offers a beautiful perspective on this in the concept of Wu Wei from Taoism, which translates to effortless action or flow. It's the idea of not forcing things but allowing them to unfold naturally, embracing change with calm and trust. Think of a tree swaying in the wind. Rather than standing rigid and breaking under the force, it bends, adapts, and stays rooted. When we release our resistance, we become like that tree, grounded yet flexible, able to navigate change without losing our core. The first step in letting go of resistance is recognizing it. Notice when you feel tense or uncomfortable about change, whether it's a new job, a shift in a relationship, or even a personal habit you're trying to break. Recognize the resistance without judgment, simply observing that it's there. Awareness is the beginning of release. Practice acceptance, not approval. Surrendering doesn't mean you have to like or agree with every change that comes your way. Instead, focus on accepting it as a reality. Practice saying, "This is happening, and I am here with it." This small shift from fighting against change to acknowledging it creates space for you to adapt without feeling overpowered. Visualize flowing with change. Imagine yourself as a leaf floating on a river. Visualize how the current carries you over rocks and through bends, moving you forward. Picture how you might respond to upcoming changes with the same ease, trusting that the flow is leading you somewhere important, even if you can't see the destination yet. Focus on your response, not the situation. Sometimes, we can't control the changes that happen around us, but we can always control how we respond. Reflect on how you would like to handle change, with peace, resilience, and flexibility. Each time you feel yourself resisting, remind yourself that it's not the change you need to manage, but your reaction. This gives you a sense of control in situations where it's easy to feel powerless. Embrace uncertainty as part of growth. It's natural to crave certainty, but the most fulfilling experiences often come from stepping into the unknown. Growth requires us to stretch beyond our comfort zones, and change is the catalyst for that growth. Remind yourself that every new experience, even those that feel uncomfortable, brings wisdom and strength. Celebrate small wins in adaptation. Every time you embrace a change, no matter how small, celebrate it as a victory. These moments of surrender, even tiny ones, build your resilience over time. It might be as simple as letting go of a small frustration at work or as profound as accepting a major life change. Each one strengthens your ability to adapt with grace. Letting go of resistance is like releasing an anchor that has been holding you back. When you allow change to move through your life without trying to control every aspect, you create room for new, unexpected possibilities. By surrendering to change, we learn to navigate life with greater ease and confidence. Instead of being buffeted by the winds of change, we become skilled sailors, using those winds to propel us forward, trusting that they're taking us exactly where we need to be. Chapter 4: Surrendering to Emotions. Our emotions are a natural, essential part of who we are. Yet, many of us are taught to push certain feelings away, often labeling them as bad or weak. This habit of rejecting emotions can leave us feeling blocked or even overwhelmed, as buried emotions have a way of resurfacing. Surrendering to emotions begins with acknowledging them honestly, giving them a name, and allowing them to be part of our experience. When we name our emotions, saying, "I feel sadness," or "I feel frustration," we create a little space between us and the feeling. This simple act helps us observe rather than judge our emotions, inviting us to sit with them as they are. By naming an emotion without immediately reacting, we can better understand its source and allow it to move through us naturally. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, also spoke to this in his writings. He believed that by observing and naming his feelings without being consumed by them, he could see the truth behind each one. This practice of naming is like holding up a mirror to our emotions, recognizing them without needing to act on them impulsively. Once we've named our emotions, the next step is to allow them to flow without holding on. When we resist or try to suppress emotions, they often grow stronger, like a pressure building up inside us. Emotions are meant to be felt and then released, they're not meant to become permanent parts of us. By letting our emotions flow freely, we allow ourselves to process experiences fully, creating inner balance. Think of emotions like waves in the ocean. When you're on the shore watching the waves, you don't try to stop them or hold them back. You simply let them come and go, knowing that each wave rises, crests, and eventually fades away. This perspective helps us see that emotions, even strong ones, are temporary. By allowing them to flow, we give ourselves permission to feel without getting stuck in any one feeling. Ancient meditation practices teach us about the power of observing emotions without attachment. Buddhist monks practice emotional non-attachment by letting emotions arise and pass without clinging to them. This approach encourages us to trust that feelings will naturally shift if we allow them to flow rather than blocking or dwelling on them. One powerful way to surrender to emotions is through a simple meditation practice. This meditation guides you to sit with your feelings, recognize them, and gently let them go. You can practice this anytime you feel a strong emotion or simply as a daily routine to check in with yourself. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably in a quiet place. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and let your body relax. Let go of any tension in your shoulders, jaw, and neck, settling into a comfortable posture. Notice your emotional state, bring your attention to how you're feeling in this moment. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, and notice what emotions come up. Whether you're feeling sadness, anger, happiness, or peace, simply acknowledge it without judging yourself. This is a time to honor whatever you feel. Name the emotion. Once you've identified what you're feeling, quietly say its name in your mind. For example, I feel anxiety, or I feel joy. Naming the emotion helps you observe it as something separate from you, allowing you to see it as part of your experience rather than something that controls you. Feel the emotion in your body, notice where you feel this emotion physically. Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, a warmth in your heart, or a heaviness in your stomach. By bringing attention to the body, you're grounding the emotion, experiencing it fully without getting lost in the story behind it. Breathe with the emotion, take slow, deep breaths, inviting the feeling to move through you. Imagine your breath as a gentle wave washing over the emotion, softening its edges and helping it flow. With each exhale, release a little bit of the feeling, letting it dissipate naturally. Let go with compassion. As you continue breathing, imagine yourself gently letting go of the emotion. You don't need to push it away, instead, picture it floating away on the breath, gradually leaving your mind and body. Trust that by allowing the emotion to move on, you're creating space for new, positive feelings. Close with gratitude. After a few minutes, bring the meditation to a close by thanking yourself for honoring your emotions. Open your eyes slowly and take a moment to notice any lightness or calmness that has emerged. Through this practice, you're training your mind to welcome emotions without being overtaken by them. Surrendering to emotions is an act of self-respect, allowing you to feel without judgment and release without fear. Emotions are like the weather, they pass, change, and give way to new experiences. By developing a compassionate approach to our emotional lives, we create resilience and clarity, making room for true peace and well-being. Chapter 5: Accepting Impermanence. The Power of Impermanence. Embracing impermanence means recognizing that everything in life, from our emotions to our circumstances, is temporary. This truth can be challenging to accept, but it is also incredibly freeing. When we truly understand that all things, both good and bad, come and go, it deepens our appreciation for the present moment and lessens the fear of losing it. Impermanence teaches us that life is dynamic, not static. Ancient wisdom from Eastern philosophy and Buddhist teachings often focuses on this concept, seeing it as a path to peace. By accepting that joy, sorrow, success, and struggle are all temporary, we can appreciate each moment more fully without becoming overly attached or fearful of what lies ahead. Consider the Japanese art of mono no aware, a term meaning, the beauty of the ephemeral. This philosophy celebrates the beauty of things precisely because they are fleeting, like cherry blossoms, which bloom magnificently but for only a short time each spring. This mindful appreciation of what is here, right now, can help us feel more connected to our lives, knowing that each experience is precious precisely because it is not permanent. Life naturally moves through cycles, birth and death, joy and sorrow, growth and decay. When we resist these cycles, wishing to hold on to one stage indefinitely, we create suffering for ourselves. By surrendering to the cycles of life, we release the need to control outcomes and instead allow life to unfold in its own way. This acceptance brings a deep sense of calm, allowing us to navigate both the ups and downs with greater resilience. Throughout history, many spiritual leaders and philosophers have emphasized the importance of flowing with life's natural rhythms. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote about embracing change as part of nature. He believed that resisting the inevitable only leads to frustration, whereas accepting it leads to inner peace. This view is reflected in the seasons themselves. Nature does not cling to summer when fall arrives. Instead, each season comes and goes, contributing to the cycle of renewal. When we surrender to these natural cycles in our own lives, we cultivate a kind of inner flexibility. We learn to be present with what is happening now without fearing what is to come or trying to recapture what has already passed. This surrender doesn't mean passivity, it means moving gracefully with life's changes rather than against them. Living in harmony with impermanence can be practiced in simple, intentional ways each day. Here are some ways to embrace this truth and allow it to bring peace and presence into your life. Start or end each day by acknowledging things in your life that you are grateful for in the present moment. By recognizing and appreciating what is here now, you honor these experiences, knowing they are not guaranteed to last forever. Gratitude encourages us to see beauty in every moment and lets us savor life's blessings without clinging to them. Spend time in nature and notice its cycles, how flowers bloom, leaves change, or rivers flow. Nature reminds us that all things have their season, and each stage is essential and beautiful in its own way. Nature shows us that growth, change, and renewal are all parts of a balanced life, making it easier to see impermanence as a source of strength rather than a threat. Release the need for certainty. We often crave stability, but true peace comes from accepting that life is filled with unknowns. Try letting go of the need to plan or predict every detail. Trust that by staying open, you will adapt to whatever comes your way. Embracing uncertainty can lead to unexpected growth and self-discovery, helping us become more adaptable and open to change. Learn to embrace minimalism. Letting go of physical possessions can be a powerful way to practice non-attachment and accept impermanence. By living with less, we learn to value the experiences and relationships that truly matter. This approach helps reduce our dependence on external things for happiness and reminds us that lasting fulfillment comes from within. Each night, take a few moments to reflect on the events of your day. Allow yourself to release both the pleasant and the challenging experiences, knowing that tomorrow is a new opportunity. This nightly practice of letting go brings closure to each day, allowing you to start fresh with a clear and open heart. Make it a habit to savor small joys, like a conversation with a friend, a warm cup of tea, or a walk outside. Recognize these moments as valuable and unique, holding them lightly rather than trying to preserve them forever. By focusing on the beauty of these everyday moments, we connect deeply with life's flow and learn to be content in the present. When we embrace impermanence, we stop fearing loss and start living more fully. The cycles of life are not something to resist or fear but to embrace as part of a greater journey. By surrendering to this truth, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering, opening the door to a life of peace, resilience, and gratitude. Through accepting the natural ebb and flow of existence, we discover a profound strength that keeps us grounded and open, no matter what changes come our way. Chapter 6: Trusting the Process. What does it mean to trust? Trusting the process means having faith in the journey, even when the outcome or direction is unclear. It's an understanding that every experience, whether joyful or challenging, contributes to our growth and leads us to where we need to be. Trusting doesn't mean ignoring practical steps or sitting idly by, it's about releasing the grip of doubt, fear, and the need to control every detail. When we cultivate trust, we open ourselves up to possibilities that our limited perspective may not foresee. Throughout history, some of the most resilient and inspiring individuals, from spiritual leaders to great philosophers, have embraced trust in life's unfolding. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus believed that change is the only constant in life, and by trusting this ever-present flow, we allow life to guide us to the right places and experiences. Trust is about embracing the unknown with courage, knowing that every step forward, even those that seem like setbacks, is part of the path we are meant to walk. Surrendering control to life's wisdom. Trusting the process requires surrendering control and allowing life to take its natural course. This surrender doesn't mean passivity or resignation, it means understanding that we don't have to bear the entire burden of direction on our shoulders. Sometimes, letting go of rigid plans and listening to our intuition opens doors we could never have forced open ourselves. In ancient Eastern philosophies, such as Taoism, this concept is known as Wu Wei, or non-doing. It teaches that by aligning ourselves with the natural rhythms of life rather than resisting them, we find ourselves in a flow where things seem to fall into place without strain. The Taoists believed that life's wisdom is often beyond human comprehension, and that trusting in this wisdom allows us to navigate challenges more gracefully. Surrendering control, in this sense, is an act of faith in the larger forces at play, forces that guide us to the people, opportunities, and lessons that enrich our lives. Consider the life of Leonardo da Vinci, one of history's most extraordinary minds, whose curiosity and creativity flourished when he embraced life's flow. Rather than sticking rigidly to one career or field, he trusted his interests and instincts, exploring art, science, and engineering. Da Vinci's faith in his own journey allowed him to create timeless works, contribute to scientific understanding, and leave a legacy that could only emerge from a mind open to life's natural guidance. Learning to trust life's process is a practice that can be nurtured each day. Here are a few exercises that can help cultivate this trust, even when the path ahead is unclear. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on any events, challenges, or surprises that unfolded. Write about how each event may have contributed to your growth, even if it didn't immediately make sense. Over time, this practice can help you see patterns, connect dots, and recognize that even the smallest moments have value. Journaling your experiences with trust allows you to appreciate life's hidden wisdom. Letting go of shoulds. Replace the word should in your thoughts with could to remove the pressure of rigid expectations. For instance, instead of saying, should be further along in my career, try, I could consider new opportunities. This subtle change in language allows for a more open, accepting attitude and helps reduce the stress of self-imposed deadlines, making it easier to trust the journey as it unfolds. Begin each morning with a brief visualization exercise. Picture yourself in a flowing river, where you are moving forward, carried by the current. Imagine that this river represents your life's journey, gently guiding you to where you need to go. Trust that even if the waters seem uncertain, they are leading you forward. This visualization helps reinforce that life's natural flow will support you, no matter how the surface may appear. Practice gratitude for unplanned moments. Learn to embrace a sense of gratitude for unplanned events, even those that may initially seem inconvenient or disruptive. By reframing these moments as potential blessings or hidden opportunities, you build a sense of trust in life's ability to surprise and support you. Gratitude reminds you that even when things don't go as planned, they often bring unexpected gifts. In moments of doubt, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and focus on the next step you need to take. Rather than worrying about the entire journey, allow yourself to trust just the next action or decision. This practice grounds you in the present and reminds you that progress is often made step by step, not by controlling the entire path. Trusting the process is about building a partnership with life. By letting go of control, we tap into a flow that is infinitely more powerful and wise than any plan we could create on our own. We begin to see that even challenges and detours are meaningful, guiding us toward growth and deeper understanding. Embracing trust doesn't make life easier, but it makes us more resilient, flexible, and capable of finding peace in the unknown. When we let go of the need to control, we make room for unexpected blessings, newfound strengths, and the possibility of a life that is even richer than we imagined. Chapter 7. The balance between holding on and letting go. Relationships are often at the heart of our emotional experience, and the delicate balance between holding on and letting go can be one of the most difficult aspects of life. Holding on to relationships, whether they're with a partner, family, or friends, can be a source of deep love and joy. However, there are times when the relationship is no longer serving either person's growth, or when holding on creates more pain than fulfillment. In those moments, surrendering becomes an act of wisdom. Finding the balance between holding on and letting go requires self-awareness and emotional maturity. It's not about abandoning love or giving up, but rather understanding when to release attachment. Healthy relationships thrive on the freedom to grow, evolve, and change. True love, in its highest form, exists when we hold space for the other person's individuality while still nurturing the bond. Letting go doesn't mean leaving behind love, but instead allowing the other person the freedom to be themselves without the weight of our expectations. In the teachings of ancient philosophies, such as Buddhism, the concept of non-attachment is often emphasized as a path to enlightenment. Attachment, while it can feel comforting, is also the source of suffering. By learning to let go, we reduce the emotional weight we carry in relationships and create room for healthier, more fulfilling connections. Holding on too tightly can cause both partners to lose their sense of self, leading to codependency. True surrender in a relationship is about having enough trust to allow the other person to grow without clinging to how we want them to be. Accepting people as they are. One of the most powerful aspects of surrendering in relationships is accepting people exactly as they are, without trying to change them. The desire to change others often stems from the belief that we know what's best for them, or that if they change, we will be happier or more fulfilled. However, this need to fix others creates stress and tension. Instead of trying to mold someone into our ideal, we are called to accept them as they are in the present moment, flaws and all. The philosopher Carl Jung taught that one of the most important aspects of self-actualization is accepting both our light and dark sides. This concept can be applied to relationships as well. We must acknowledge that no one is perfect, including ourselves. Embracing imperfection in our relationships fosters compassion and patience. When we stop trying to change others, we release the burden of expectation and free ourselves to experience deeper connection. Acceptance also means respecting each other's autonomy and boundaries. People in our lives are not extensions of ourselves, but unique individuals with their own paths to walk. Accepting this truth is an act of surrender, as it requires us to let go of the need to control or force an outcome. Instead, we shift our focus inward, making sure our own needs are met and that we are living authentically. When we learn to love and accept others without trying to change them, we create a space for mutual respect and deeper emotional connection. Cultivating compassionate detachment. Compassionate detachment is the art of maintaining emotional empathy and care for others, while also maintaining healthy boundaries and not losing oneself in the process. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent, but rather developing a balanced perspective on how we engage with the people in our lives. Compassionate detachment requires us to be fully present for others, without allowing their emotional states or behaviors to dictate our own. For example, in challenging relationships, such as those with toxic family members or difficult partners, it is crucial to remain compassionate without becoming enmeshed in the drama or negativity. The goal is to maintain a loving, empathetic connection while also safeguarding our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Cultivating compassionate detachment helps to prevent codependency, burnout, and resentment. The renowned spiritual teacher Eckhart Tolle emphasizes the importance of detachment in his teachings. He speaks about the need to remain the observer in relationships, meaning that we can witness another person's actions or words without becoming consumed by them. This kind of detachment does not diminish our love for others, instead, it strengthens our ability to love without fear, anger, or manipulation. We love others for who they are, not for what we hope they will become or how they make us feel. Exercises for surrendering in relationships. Mindful breathing during difficult conversations. When you find yourself caught up in an emotional conversation, take a moment to pause and breathe deeply. This practice creates space between you and your emotional reactions, allowing you to listen and respond more consciously. By breathing deeply, you step out of your automatic reactions and make room for greater understanding. Affirmation of acceptance. When facing difficult feelings about someone in your life, use an affirmation to ground yourself in acceptance. I accept you as you are, without trying to change you, and I trust that we are both on our own unique paths. Repeating this affirmation helps to release control and embrace the present moment with compassion. Create emotional boundaries. Write down the areas in your relationships where you feel overwhelmed or emotionally drained. These are often signs that your boundaries are being violated. Once identified, practice setting healthy emotional boundaries by gently but firmly communicating your needs. For example, I need some space to process my thoughts and will talk to you when I'm ready. Practice empathy through active listening. In your relationships, take time to practice active listening. Give the person your full attention, not interrupting or preparing your response while they speak. Just listen. Sometimes, the most healing thing we can do in a relationship is to offer the other person the gift of being fully heard. Visualization of emotional release. Close your eyes and visualize a situation where you are holding on tightly to someone's behavior or expectations. Imagine that with each breath, you are gently letting go of that grip. See the situation dissolving into light, with you and the other person free from the burden of expectation. Allow the lightness of this visualization to fill your heart. Surrendering in relationships is a dynamic process that requires constant reflection and practice. It's not about abandoning love or cutting ties but rather about fostering deeper connections by releasing the need to control or change others. By holding space for the people we care about, while also maintaining our own personal freedom, we create relationships based on mutual respect, understanding, and love. Through surrender, we can experience a more profound sense of peace and fulfillment in our interactions with others, allowing the natural flow of life and love to guide us. In today's world, it's easy to become tangled in the expectations placed on us by others, society, family, friends, and even our own past experiences. Over time, we start to wear masks, adopt roles, and play parts that are not aligned with our true selves. These false identities are often created as a means of survival or fitting in, but they can prevent us from experiencing our full potential and living authentically. Self-surrender is about letting go of these fabricated identities and releasing the pressures of external expectations. It's about allowing the layers we've built up to peel away, revealing the person we are beneath the surface. This act of surrender is not about losing ourselves, it's about finding ourselves. By letting go of who we think we should be, we create space for who we truly are to emerge. The famous philosopher Socrates once said, "Know thyself." This ancient wisdom reminds us that the path to personal growth and fulfillment begins with self-awareness. When we surrender the roles we've adopted for the sake of others' approval or safety, we make room for our authentic desires, values, and passions to come to light. We can then move forward in life with a deeper sense of purpose, direction, and fulfillment. One of the most powerful aspects of aligning with your true self is learning to listen to your inner guidance. Our intuition, or inner knowing, is a direct connection to our authentic self, and it speaks to us constantly through feelings, thoughts, and subtle nudges. The problem is that many of us have learned to ignore or suppress these inner whispers, choosing instead to follow external advice, societal norms, or logical thinking. Trusting intuition is an essential part of surrender. It requires letting go of the need to have everything figured out and being open to the mysteries of life. By surrendering to your inner guidance, you allow yourself to make decisions based on what feels right for you, not what others expect or what seems safe on paper. Intuition often leads us down unexpected paths, but those paths can be the most transformative, as they align with our soul's purpose. There's a powerful story about the great inventor Nikola Tesla, who trusted his intuition above all else. Tesla's intuitive insights led him to some of the most groundbreaking inventions in history, including alternating current, AC, electrical systems. His deep connection to his inner knowing allowed him to transcend conventional thinking and change the world. Like Tesla, when we trust and act on our intuition, we align with our truest path, even if it's not the one others would choose for us. Aligning with your true self requires integrating all parts of your being, your mind, body, and spirit. This holistic integration involves accepting yourself fully, with all your strengths, flaws, and contradictions. We often get stuck focusing on one part of ourselves, like our intellect, while neglecting the others, such as our emotional health or physical well-being. True alignment comes when we honor all aspects of our being, allowing them to work together in harmony. Find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably and close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths to center yourself. As you breathe in, imagine drawing in love and compassion for yourself. With each exhale, release any self-judgment or criticism. Slowly bring your attention to areas of your life where you feel disconnected from your true self, and offer them acceptance. Repeat the affirmation, "I accept myself fully as I am. I am worthy of love, success, and happiness." Allow yourself to simply be with whatever arises, embracing all aspects of your being with compassion. Stand or sit in a relaxed position, focusing on your breath. Gently scan your body, noticing any areas of tension or discomfort. Instead of pushing these feelings away, acknowledge them with compassion. Gently breathe into those areas and give them permission to release. As you do this, imagine your mind, body, and spirit coming into alignment. Trust that your body holds wisdom and that by listening to it, you can achieve a sense of wholeness. Journaling your truth. Take a moment each day to write freely in a journal about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Don't censor yourself or worry about grammar, just let your inner truth flow onto the page. Reflect on any moments when you felt disconnected from your true self or when you felt in alignment. Ask yourself, what is my heart telling me? What do I truly want from life? Through this process, you'll become more attuned to your own inner voice and gain clarity on the steps needed to align with your authentic self. Gratitude for the present moment. Often, we get caught in the pursuit of what's next, future goals, achievements, or aspirations. While it's important to have direction, it's equally important to practice gratitude for the present moment. This exercise helps you connect with the truth of who you are right now, without judgment or comparison. Each day, take time to write down 3 things you are grateful for. It could be as simple as a peaceful moment, a kind gesture from someone, or an accomplishment, no matter how small. By focusing on the present, you help cultivate acceptance for where you are in your journey. Aligning with your true self is a powerful practice that requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to let go of external influences. When we release the false identities we've clung to and surrender to the wisdom of our inner guidance, we step into a life that feels true and purposeful. By integrating mind, body, and spirit, we become whole, aligning ourselves with the deeper truth of who we are. This chapter invites you to embrace your authentic self with love, acceptance, and courage, trusting that the universe will guide you along the way. Incorporating surrender into your daily routine doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. It's about creating small, intentional practices that remind you to release control and remain open to life's flow. These rituals can ground you, helping you navigate each day with a sense of ease, rather than resistance. Each morning or evening, take a few minutes to write down your thoughts, emotions, and intentions for the day. This isn't about analyzing or overthinking, it's about allowing your feelings and thoughts to flow freely, without judgment. Journaling helps you connect with your inner self, uncovering desires, fears, and insights that guide you through your day. In moments of uncertainty or struggle, your journal becomes a space for surrendering thoughts that no longer serve you. Meditation is another powerful ritual for cultivating daily surrender. You don't need to meditate for hours to experience the benefits. Just a few minutes of focused breathing or mindfulness practice can help you release stress and connect with the present moment. As you sit quietly, focus on your breath. With each inhale, imagine drawing in calm and clarity. With each exhale, release any tension or resistance. By regularly practicing meditation, you create a habit of surrender that becomes natural and comforting. Mindful breathing throughout the day is also a simple, yet effective practice. When you feel tension rising or a sense of overwhelm creeping in, pause and take a few deep, conscious breaths. Breathe in deeply through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Then exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any stress or anxiety. This practice helps you center yourself in the present moment, fostering a sense of calm and acceptance, no matter what's happening around you. Setting intentions is a powerful way to start your day with clarity and focus. The act of setting an intention is like planting a seed in the fertile soil of your mind. It directs your energy toward your goals while also allowing you to remain open to whatever comes your way. To set an intention for surrender, begin by taking a few moments in the morning to reflect on what you want to release. Maybe it's control over outcomes, the fear of failure, or the pressure of meeting expectations. You can write down a simple statement like, "Today, I surrender the need for perfection. I choose to trust the process and remain open to life's flow." As the day unfolds, remind yourself of this intention whenever you feel the urge to take charge or resist what is happening. This practice doesn't force you to surrender, it simply provides a gentle nudge to stay aligned with your purpose, open to growth, and trusting the journey. Remember, Intentions don't need to be rigid. They are flexible and adaptable, just like surrender itself. Let your intention flow with the day, adjusting as necessary to keep your mind centered and open. Surrender isn't a one-time event or something you do only in times of crisis. It's a lifelong practice, a way of living that becomes an intrinsic part of who you are. To make surrender a part of your lifestyle, you need to embrace it as a dynamic, evolving practice that aligns with your growth and your experiences. As you continue to practice surrender, you will notice subtle shifts in how you approach life. What once felt overwhelming or out of control will begin to feel like part of the natural ebb and flow. Relationships, work, and personal challenges will no longer feel like battles to be fought, but opportunities to practice trust and acceptance. Surrendering in your lifestyle means releasing the need for rigid plans and timelines. It's about being willing to step into the unknown with faith, knowing that life will unfold in perfect timing. As you grow and evolve, so too will your practice of surrender. You may find new ways to let go, new aspects of your life that need releasing, and new areas where trust and acceptance will bring peace and clarity. As you begin to practice surrender more intentionally, take time to reflect on the changes you notice within yourself. These shifts may not always be dramatic, but they will be felt in profound ways. You might notice a deeper sense of peace, a reduction in anxiety, or a greater ease in dealing with life's challenges. You may find yourself embracing uncertainty instead of fearing it. The more you surrender, the more you align with the flow of life and the more you trust the wisdom of the universe. Surrender isn't a destination, it's a journey. There will always be more to learn, more to release, and more to embrace. Every step you take on this path will bring you closer to a life of peace, purpose, and fulfillment. The practice of surrender is ongoing, evolving with you as you continue to grow and change. Remember, the act of surrender isn't about doing it perfectly, but about being open to the process, trusting that each step you take is exactly where you need to be. As you embrace surrender in your life, trust that the universe is guiding you toward exactly what you need. It will provide the lessons, the opportunities, and the people who will support you on your path. The more you trust the process, the more you will see how everything falls into place when you stop forcing and start allowing. Surrender is not about passivity, it's about active trust, faith, and openness. May you continue to surrender with grace and courage, knowing that the universe has your back. May you embrace the flow of life and allow it to lead you to greater peace, deeper connections, and a life filled with love and joy. May your journey of surrender bring you closer to your highest self, and may you walk this path with a heart full of trust and a spirit at peace. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights and powerful tactics to help you on your journey. Give this video a like, share it with friends, and let's keep spreading knowledge together. We wish you many blessings on your path ahead. Thank you for being with us.